G'day, it's Nicola here. I've got a book review for you this week. It's a really sharp and witty bestseller by ex-UK Minister Rory Stewart. The show today is brought to you thanks to the Your Family Stories system, which helps you interview a loved one to record their life story. And I'll have some free sections to this coming up towards the end of the show. Now, the full title of this book is Politics on the Edge, a memoir from within. And it's a super entertaining read about Stewart's turbulent times, his turbulent decade really, in the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom. Now, Stewart, he's a former serviceman, former diplomat, and now Yale University professor. And this Penguin Random House book, it's actually picked up a lot of accolades around the globe, including British Book Awards Best Book of the Year for non-fiction narrative. So I'm going to quickly go over what the book's about, what's interesting in it as a reader, and what's interesting in it as a life story creator. So let's get to it. A bit more about the book. In short, it's 464 pages, it's a memoir, and it jumps in, it starts when Stewart's considering a change of career. So up until this point, he's lived and worked in Europe, Middle East and Asia, and he considers going into politics. Now, he says he's lucky in a way. He wins the seat of Penrith and the Border, which is in Cumbria County, and he spends the next 10 years in politics. So when he joins, he's sort of as a freshly minted MP, he's learning the ropes, and he's under Prime Minister David Cameron. So the first 5 years, he's MP, and then he starts getting some ministerialships. And after this, we're under Prime Minister Theresa May, and then she resigns. And by this point, Stewart's standing for becoming the head of the party, and he's up against a number of others, including Boris Johnson. So that's it in short, what the book's about. But what's interesting in it for us as readers? Well, firstly, I couldn't believe how interesting it was to hear what goes on inside or behind closed doors for the party, but also as, learning about the political system for the UK. Especially, like, for example, the whips, they hold so much power and they seem to be able to influence an MP's career progression. We also get a lot of insight into how people become ministers, and sometimes this is quite random. It's not really aligned to their skills or experience. So I found that super interesting. And of course, during these times, we learn a lot about Brexit. It's very divisive and it affects the whole country. And we also learn a lot about how it affects the constituents for Stewart, who are rural farming communities. So that was really interesting. But what can we learn by picking up this book as life story creators? Well, we learn quite a lot. I think firstly, you should take a look at the author's note at the beginning of the book. This is one of the most strongly worded ones I've come across. In fact, Stewart says, look, people are going to be angry with what I've written here. I've chosen to identify some people, but not others. But I've not written what I know to be false. So in short, he's basically addressing his colleagues who he knows some of them are going to be rightfully angry by what he's written. So that was quite interesting and worth a look. Another thing that was highlighted was that the first draft of the book was over 220,000 words, which is quite a lot. But it's really important to note that, Stewart, he's an experienced published author, and he's, produced a first draft that's huge, and then it's been cut back to basically the essence, the real gold. That's what we read when we pick it up in the bookshops. And this is really important because it shows that, our first draft isn't a finished product. It's going to go through iterations. It's going to be refined and polished to what's something you're really proud of. So don't get overwhelmed at writing the first draft because it's going to be a creative process. So that was quite important. And finally, I think as life story creators, you need to pick this book up because he does characters so well. It's like a masterclass in writing characters. He's really eloquent, he's specific, he's super creative and often really funny in how he presents people. So I would pick that book up. I think it's a wonderful example of how to bring characters to life on the page. So there you go, a super quick book review on Politics on the Edge, and this is a British Book Awards winner, and it's an inside take on Brexit, the democracy and the Conservative Party. So I've just quickly touched on what the book's about, what's interesting for us as readers, but also as life story creators. And I hope you'll take away from this book that you really do need guts sometimes to make a stand. And this is what Stewart does towards the end of the book when he takes that stand against Boris for what he believes in. And that really did take some courage. So this show is a short summary of a bigger article I have over at my website on this topic. You can find more about it, links to buy the book, photos of the book, photo of Stewart plus quotes. Go to foreveryoungautobiographies.com/politics on the edge. And while you're there and while you're here, answer this question. Like Stewart, have you had more than one career? Have you reinvented yourself? I'd love to hear from you, so drop me a line. You can also email me anytime at foreveryoungautobiographies.com/contact. I'd love to hear if you're getting stuck or frustrated with anything in the life story creating process, whether that's planning, writing, creating or polishing. I'd love to hear from you, so please don't hesitate to drop me a line. Now, the Your Family Stories system, which I mentioned at the top of the show, I have free sections for this. You can go to foreveryoungautobiographies.com/free. Now, as I mentioned, the system will help you with a step-by-step process on how to interview a loved one to record their life stories. Now, I've done this with my grandmother, and I know you can do it with your loved one as well. So make sure you go check out that freebie. And before you go, I'd really love it if you could follow, subscribe and like the show. Leave it a review, because I'll be back really soon with another topic. And until then, happy writing.